Thank you, Sir Graham. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship this afternoon. Can I start by paying tribute to the Right Honourable Member for Elmer and Rothwell for securing this important debate and for his continued campaign on women's issues. We've heard today harrowing experiences being recited about women's experiences, and it is really important that we hear those experiences and that they are repeated over and over again, because we need to remind ourselves that these are real lives, human beings who have to live with this day in, day out, and it's important that it's recorded in this House. I'd also like to thank all honourable and right honourable members for their powerful contributions today. As a fairly new member in this House, I believe I'm the newest in here, and having also taken some time off as for maternity, I believe I've spent less time here than most members in here. So this is the first time I'm hearing about the review, the Cumberlege review, the progress on the Cumberlege review, and it is really depressing to hear that that there is very, that we haven't made very much progress on the recommendations, and the pressing thread throughout today's debate has been, as it was put by the Right Honourable Member for Maidenhead, the patronising attitude to women's voices, which still continues. So I would like to also, Sir Graham, like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to the tireless work of the campaigners around the Cumberlege review, particularly the Association for Children Damaged by Hormone Pregnancy Tests, without which the review would have never taken place and we would not be here today. We've heard that Baroness Cumberlege's excellent review looked into the use of primidose, sodium valproate in pregnancy and pelvic mesh implants. These medicines and medical devices cause untold physical, developmental and emotional harm to tens and thousands of women. It is almost 4 years since the Independent Medicine and Medical Devices Safety Review was announced. However, it is over 50 years since these treatments started to be used, and it is decades, as it's just been mentioned, decades and decades since women have been trying to get their voices heard. Absolutely.
I've been hearing the question very well in trying to understand the position. In the case of primidose, this was not a drug which was going to cure anything. It was simply a tablet that was telling the person who took it whether or not they were pregnant. And there were other methodologies around at the time which were deemed to be safe, even though they continued to give primidose out when they knew it wasn't safe. So it's quite a clear, difficult thing where a GP was giving a drug out years after the relevant body said it shouldn't be.
Thank you. I thank the member for Hemel Hempstead for his intervention, and I totally agree with the points he's made. I said I'm a mother of an 8-month-old at the moment, and during my pregnancy, I trusted my GPs. I trusted everything they said. I was vulnerable, like all mothers. I believed that they would want the best for me. So it is absolutely devastating that these GPs knew the impact of these drugs, yet continue to give them out to women. So thank him for that contribution. As I've also been speaking to, I also have constituents in Enfield North who were impacted by the medicines. My constituent Chris was given primidose in June 1970 to find out whether she was pregnant. Her daughter Emma is now 51 years old and has suffered from limb deformation, spinal problems, scoliosis, joint and mental health problems her whole life. She lives in chronic and intense pain that does not go away. She can no longer work full-time. So the review set out 9 ways in which the government could have delivered justice and made the lives of those affected, such as Chris and Emma, a little easier, and to try to prevent future incidents. Given the shocking accounts, as we've heard today, indeed accounts the government has been hearing for years, and the evidence in the review, you would have expected for the recommendations to be accepted in full. Yet, they have not. The government has instead accepted 4 recommendations, as we've heard, not accepted 2 recommendations, accepted 2 recommendations in part and 1 in principle. I'm pleased that there has been an apology. I'm pleased that legislation for patient safety commissioner. I'm pleased that there are specialist centres for the care of those with complications from mesh implants, although we've heard that there are serious concerns over that, and I hope the Minister will address those concerns. And I'm also pleased that the changes to how conflict of interest for doctors are reported is also there. However, that is not the reason we stand here today. Implementing those recommendations alone is not good enough. The government has refused to establish a redress agency for those harmed by these medicines and medical devices. It has also refused to set up a separate scheme to meet the cost of providing additional care and support to those who have experienced unavoidable harm. This would make a huge difference to families to meet the exceptionally challenging needs every day. My constituent, Emma, worries about her ability to keep working in the future and her financial stability. If there were a scheme available to support her financially, she would not have to worry. The government claims to care about women's health and making change. The government's vision for women's health, announced in December, is to, I quote, improve the way in which the health and care system listens to women, and to reset our approach to women's health by placing women's voices at the centre of this work. It then directly cites Baroness Cumberlege's review. Independent reports and inquiries, not least a report of the Independent Medicines and Medical Devices Safety Review, have found that it is often women whom the healthcare system fails to keep safe and to whom the system fails to listen. So, the government accepts the review, the government uses the review, but the government will not deliver on the review. It will not truly listen to those who have been campaigning for years for justice and do right by these families. It will not take the opportunity to reset their approach to women's health by placing women's voices at the centre of their work by implementing all the recommendations. In November, I wrote to the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care to ask him to consider establishing a task force to implement all recommendations of the review to put these injustices right. I'm still waiting for a response. How can the government claim they are taking this review and women's health seriously if they cannot even respond to a letter from a member? Will the Minister please commit to implementing the remaining recommendations? If not, will the Minister explain how not implementing the full recommendations of the Cumberlege Review changes anything? How it helps to create a system that keeps women safe and listens to women? It is time that she stands up for those families affected by primidose, sodium valproate and surgical mesh, and the government stands by their vision by implementing the recommendations in full. Otherwise, we will fail these families and these women again and again. Thank you so much.